right, so welcome everyone. It's great to be here. And just a little bit as a background, so this has been on our minds maybe for now. I don't know, when did we really start? Maybe 5 months ago? Was it something like that, that we started to talk, but in past 3 months really polishing all the content and everything. So it's really fantastic to have the chance to present the next phase of the BMC Academy. Let's go for the next slide. Maybe just for those who don't know us, everybody knows us here. But for those who are listening to this presentation, so I'm the founder of the Beijing Mindfulness Center and BMC Academy, and also the program director as well. And I'll just give Renee you a place to say a quick thing about yourself.
Yeah, just a quick hello to everybody, and a big thank you and much appreciation for taking the time to be have some curiosity around mindful circles. I'm also a certified coach with ICF, have been for the past, oh my gosh, 10 years now, I think, and just recently finished up my master's in leadership and strategy, and just really humbled to bring my mindfulness knowledge as a mindfulness practitioner from the University of Toronto into mindful circles. So really looking forward to exploring this program with everybody. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, so I remember Renee and I met really on one presentation of how mindfulness and coaching work here in Beijing. And the next phase, what really happened was that we both began to animate a group called Mindful Mothers, which is very familiar to particularly some of our coaches. This was also Mindful Mothers in a way initiated the desire to learn about coaching afterwards, and I can say that a lot of background of what Beijing Mindfulness Center has been is really due to this program. And Renee and I are both now faculty for the Coaching from Within program that has been accredited by ICF. So let's go a little bit into the mindful circles and how this experience of running mindful circles at BMC has now kind of like brought us to that point of beginning to teach and all about the philosophy. So the program itself is 45 hours long. ICF is at the moment doing transitioning. Some of you are familiar with some acronyms: ACSDH path, ACTP path. All of that is changing, and from the next year there will be different names for ICF. So level 1 program will be anything that is up to 60 hours and more. And level 2 will be 125 hours. So with our already existing program, Coaching from Within, this additional 45 hours will create this level 2 program, which means that we will be supporting all the coaches who would want to be PCC certified. Now the vision of the program is to really bring group coaching skills together with the mindfulness practice, and in that way that we continue this legacy of the Beijing Mindfulness Center, which has been really the key mission of the BMC was to build a community. So the whole program is basically formed around the principle that we are using mindfulness practice to hold the groups and with coaching, group coaching skills to animate the coaching inquiry, enable the practice to become alive for the participants, but ultimately to actually really use those two skills to bind the group and to create the community and become animators of the community. Maybe the next slide. So this is really about the program itself, a little bit about the commitment, the time that it takes. So there will be two parts of the program. It will be delivered online. So there is we have an online portal where you will have access to 10 different sessions or lessons that are in a way self-paced. So it's basically you will have a week to take that learning at whenever you want. Now the sessions are all based on multimedia. They have audio, video, files, articles, inquiries, quizzes, assignments, and so on. And so it's a portal that we've been actually using for coaching from within already. And prior to each session, you will actually need to prepare a little bit. So already come into the live session that both Renee and I will be holding already prepared. So these live sessions will be 8-week sessions. So each session will be 2.5 hours, and we will be meeting all together for 20 hours in that case. So these 10 lessons that are online will require your 10 hours of your own work, either reading or listening, watching. And additionally, we will be meeting during these 2.5 hours. These 2.5 hours will be discussion-based sessions, and they will also have practice time, something that we already have experienced in the coaching from within. We will have some form of rounds, but rounds will be delivered within the circle. So each of you will have one part of the circle that you will see in a minute. Renee will be talking about all the elements that we will be covering during these 8 weeks. So there will be so practice as well as discussion about each topic, a case study, and then a little bit more diving deeper into why these elements are really important to as we see them. Then the next part will be practicum. Those will be mindful circles. There will be 5 group sessions. They will be a little bit longer, something that is all, again, preparing you to actually animate the circle as we would see, perhaps 1.5 hours long. They can be done either face-to-face here at the Beijing Mindfulness Center if you are in Beijing, or online. And practicum is really about you beginning to animate your circles, which some of you are already doing that. So we would just want to see more how you do that with combined the skills of group coaching. And then in the end, if we are not participating in your 5 animated sessions, we will definitely want to hear your 2 recorded sessions that we are going to be then giving you feedback as it usually goes. Everything will be according to ICF competencies as well, which is Renee will touch base on that in a moment. Right?
Fantastic. Thanks, Dalita. So that kind of gives us a sense of the overview and the structure. And as we go into sort of the essence of mindful circles, we've really looked at sort of a lot of different aspects of what it will take from a coach to be able to really hold this space. And so the competencies of group coaching, of course, will be infused sort of throughout the different lessons as we go week by week. And some of them may show up a couple of times, some of them may show up just once, but they are present. And so as we work through, we really want the first week to be able to sort of set the foundation. We're looking at providing a bit of historical context about where mindful circles came from. We're looking at how we want to introduce mindful circles to the group that is in the program. And then also in group one, we are combining what it means to create agreements. And so for those of you who are coaches, we understand that in one-on-one coaching, having an agreement in a coach-client relationship is really essential of being able to ensure that there's clarity, that we're managing expectations, and that people have an understanding of what this relationship is all about, what this exchange is about. And so in week one, we touch on those aspects. In week two, we look at facilitation versus group coaching and just the different hats that coaches can wear throughout a mindful circle process. Because it is important that we look at it through saying, what's the distinction between coaching and facilitation? How do we know when we're stepping into one space and stepping away from the other? How do our clients know that we might do that? Because when we're looking at being certified as a coach, of course, we want to be able to ensure that the art of coaching is pure and that it stays with all of the essential aspects, because facilitation and coaching can be quite different and distinct. So we take some time to look at those differences and the similarities. Moving into week three, we look at trust and intimacy. A really big competency for ICF is about being able to create trust and intimacy with our clients. So we look at that in much more detail about how do we create trust? What does that mean? What are some of the elements that go into building trust in all different layers of a group coaching? After the trust and intimacy, we keep building and we look at working with different agendas within a group. And as a coach, it's always good to, of course, have your own resourcefulness of being prepared with an agenda, but at the same time being open to what the individuals in the group might be coming to talk about. And there might be multiple agendas within a mindful circle, or there might be one individual might step forward and say, this is what I would like to focus on today with the support of the group. And so how do you balance that, right? How do you balance multiple agendas that might surface throughout a mindful circle? And then of course, lean on one's own resourcefulness in case the individuals are just a bit more quiet and reserved in that particular circle. In week 5, we look at the 3 dilemmas of group coaching, which really talk about sort of this transitioning between one-on-one coaching and moving into group coaching. And so there's a few different aspects that we're going to be doing a deep dive into around skill sets and what is the frame of mind that a coach needs to enter into when making that transition. Within week 6, we move into the power dynamics of group coaching and really look at what does that environment of multiple individuals in a group look like, right? How do we want to share struggling together well when different topics get brought up in terms of either mental health or grief or loss? And how can the coach use storytelling as a really powerful tool to convey different messages that might have different meanings across a group of individuals? And so we look at that sort of power dynamic within the group because it can be quite complex. And if the coach has the awareness of that complexity, then they're just able to navigate it that much more smoothly for themselves and for the individuals involved. And so when we do have an individual that steps forward, in week 7, we'll be looking at holding a group while coaching an individual. And it's all about inclusive engagement and empowerment. So how do we connect with that one individual that wants to talk about a certain topic while simultaneously bringing in the group in terms of support and engagement? So we look at different examples of that. And of course, this is going to be something that we are able to practice in the practicums with regards to being able to really practice this because it is quite an art. And then the last week, we've combined looking at diverse and homogeneous groups while forwarding the action. And the diverse and homogeneous groups is really about how do we also address our own biases as coaches when we're in a diverse setting. And what do we prefer to coach? Do we prefer to coach diverse groups versus homogeneous groups? What are the similarities? What are the differences? And then the forwarding the action is really about a combination of all of these different elements. And how do we then take that next step and empower the group, the circle, the community in terms of being able to hold themselves accountable to their goals? How do we celebrate milestones? How do we acknowledge when milestones haven't been met? And then as a way of supporting the community and forwarding their action, how do we as coaches of mindful circles do the same for ourselves in that space? So when we look at this, of course, underneath all of these titles are our learning objectives, which I think are in the previous document. So we do encourage you to make a bit more reference to those details because that'll give you just a bit more insight into what we're focusing on in these weeks and peel back the layers of the Mindful Circles program.
Yeah, and maybe I can also just add quickly that along all these themes, especially when it comes into forwarding the action, it's really mindfulness practice. This is why we would assume that the community would gather around the mindfulness practice. So there are meditations, we are talking about how in agreements, how do you announce, what is your theme, what is your signature, how are you bringing mindfulness, what kind of practice do you bring into the circle, how are you keeping commitment here? Are people, let's say for mindful mothers, it was maybe homogeneous group from perspective of mothers were coming together, right? But at the same time, it was diverse when we were thinking about where they were coming from different nationalities, different age group of their children, and so on. So all of these topics we will be basically looking into and talking about also what kind of storytelling that supports teaching mindfulness, facilitating mindfulness as learning mindfulness as a skill as well. So there will be also elements of mindfulness practice, of course, within each.
That's right. And Deluta, to that point, anybody who has a curiosity around mindful circles, we do ask that, of course, there's an element of coaching certification that has been done and a personal mindfulness practice that you're bringing with you that has been established in order to sort of step into the program already with these skills and these experiences.
Yes, yes, it's very important part. We've been thinking who to open the program to. So we are not going to be teaching mindfulness practice per se, and we are not going to really be teaching coaching skills as such, right? Like, so this is why this program is really the next level. It's coming into being a rounded coach, more equipped, but also it's looking at creating a space for all the coaches to actually create a bit more of a platform to even support one-on-one coaching. because this is exactly what Beijing Mindfulness Center has been about, having the circles, and from the circles also having one-on-one coaching, and it's where members of the community were coming in, being curious how to maintain the practice, and through using coaching, supporting basically individuals within the community to stay on track with their own life aspirations. So anybody who would have some facilitation of programs would actually be very much connected with understanding how mindful circles would work. But group understanding group ethics, for example, this is really important part for us. So that's why we are primarily asking for people to be certified. So within coaching from within, those who have attended maybe the first two modules, or module 1 and module 3, would actually, in our opinion, be quite skilled and equipped to attend and hold mindful circle already. So maybe we can pause. Yeah, we can also pause here. Yeah, maybe ask for some questions. So yeah, this is. There's also a financial commitment, of course, for the program, which is for this opening program for. We are giving it as at $2,000 that includes all the material and all the practices, and then it's about registration. But maybe we can switch off our PowerPoint for a moment and maybe just hear if there are any questions, any curiosities. I do have some questions that were sent beforehand. Some people couldn't attend, but any questions that before, as I'm looking at the question, to find the question that were asked privately to me before. So there was something about the timeline. The first question was about the starting time. So yes, we will be starting on the 6th of September. The sessions will be online. That will be on Tuesdays at 7:30 to 10 p.m. Beijing time or Hong Kong time. So we will finish in November that 8-week program, and then we will start the practicum. That will be the practicum where we will all be participants of the circle. So that is what the practicum is. Whoever is animating the circle is going to address, are we homogeneous, are we diverse group? We will come up with our agendas and we will join the circle with a practice. And at the end of that hour and a half practice, we are going to spend a bit of time, or 1 hour practice, we will spend a bit of time on talking about how it all went. So we are actually kind of like going to be the community. During the program, we will create the community of our own practice, right? The 8-week, so there are 10 kind of like sessions that the first 2 sessions are put into, so they're all put into 8 weeks, and the question was, what is the difference between the live and online kind of like portal learning sessions? So the difference is that we will be making a discussion, having a discussion during our sessions, so, and not going through the content that is already on the learning portal. So we will not deliver again the topic about what is the article about. We will not talk about we will ask the questions and engage you in how you understand the content. So you will need to come prepared for it, for each session. Basically, that is the key. And then there was a question about the payment. If payment can be done in different currency, yes, it can be done in renminbi. It can be done in dollars. We can share. We will share the information about the payment. So another one was a little concern about doing sessions in the evening for those who are in Beijing. One thing I can say, I'm definitely more of a morning person, but I have already experienced all our programs online we have been delivering at this time, and I get energized and animated, and time goes so quickly that it is amazing. So I am really looking forward to that. But I understand for those who that might think that this would be a bit of an obstacle, I just asked you to come with an open mind. Mm-hmm. So this is for the questions that have been asked beforehand, and yeah, anything else that is present right now.
So how much in between sessions, how much time do you think it will go into watching the videos and also doing the prep work?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah. Great question, Charlene. And when we looked at each of the different lessons, each of them have, sometimes they have a podcast, sometimes they just have articles. So I would say on an average, it's about an hour. Sometimes it might be a little bit more in terms of like maybe an hour and a half after you get through the material. Some of them that don't have a podcast might be a little bit less. With regards to just reading and doing the coach inquiry. I think the biggest part might be either just the listening to the podcast. Those are usually about an hour, and then the time that it takes to fill out the coach inquiry, which is more about sort of it being an assignment reflection base in order to then move on to the next lesson. And so in that coach inquiry, there's about 5 different questions that are just to sort of guide the thinking and deepen the learning. And so we ask that those be sort of submitted, and then we can reflect on the progress that the group and the individuals are making with regards to their own understanding of the content. So it really varies, but I would say about an hour to an hour and a half. Delita, do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think, for example, the introduction session will have 2 podcasts. Mm-hmm. So that might be a little bit longer. Then there will be one whole Mindful Monday session recorded, which is like a case study, where we will be particularly talking about when there's coaching one person. So that is hour and a half long. Other podcasts are mainly 45 to 50 minutes.
That's right.
And articles, some are 3 pages. There are actually some elements of books also that we highly recommend to read as well. There may be 1 or 2 chapters. Now the key here is to come up with some curiosity and as prepared for a session. Of course, if you manage to hear one podcast but not the other, just coming with a curiosity from that one podcast is already bringing the participation. And when you understand, if you don't manage to cover everything from A to Z in one session, but the way how the program works, you will not be able to move forward until you complete an assignment at the end of the session. So we will be approving the assignment. The assignment is the coaching inquiry, which you can fill in right after we attend the class as well. So you don't need to fill in the coaching, assignment for that session in order to participate in the session. So maybe if that makes sense. And I think that is also maybe a little bit more preparation. That's why for those who are ready to sign up for the program, we will immediately sign you in for the first two sessions. So they are already available. You can begin to read and get familiar with the program. But we will not release the session until we will release the session, other sessions, only 1 week before, right? So you will not have access to the full program right now, only to the first two sessions. Yeah.
And I also have actually 2 other questions that might be related. So one is, because personally I have not looked into other team coaching or group coaching programs on the market. So I'm really curious about how this program is similar or different to other team or group coaching programs out there. And then the other question is also, I understand there's a mindfulness element to it. And I've also, of course, personally seen how mindful mothers and all sorts of mindful circles run in session. And I'm really curious, what other settings might the skills that we acquired from this program might we be able to use? For example, would it be applicable in a corporate setting, or are there other settings, or family counseling sessions or couple counseling? So I'm curious, what other settings might we be able to use these skills that we acquired?
Great questions. Do you feel like you want to tackle any of the questions, Renee?
Yeah, sure. I can speak to perhaps the first one that Charlene had mentioned with regards to some of the other group and team coaching. And it's such a great point, and we really wanted to address this actually in the first part of the program, is the difference between team and group coaching. And so with that, we really wanted to focus Mindful Circles on the community. And so we really just kind of honed in on this aspect of a group versus a team. And so with that in mind, it's not to say that the skills aren't transferable, because I think that they definitely are, but there's a distinction between the two of them. And so, of course, team being an intact team with a very clear goal that they're working towards, whereas a group has sort of multiple agendas coming in at different times in different spaces, and then perhaps returning the next week or perhaps not. And so there's a bit of more of that sort of fluidity with a group. And so I think the difference between a lot of the programs that are out there already could be that they either just focus on theory, right? They focus on just content, or perhaps they are more experiential, where you do get to practice and to build it out. Some of them are accredited, some of them are not accredited. So for those that are kind of on the accreditation path, we really wanted this to provide that opportunity for people to use this towards their own sort of coaching accreditation. And then there's some that aren't. I would say that the cost, though, that is being presented for this is very comparable. And because we're taking a holistic approach to Mindful Circles with regards to both the accreditation, the support that we're offering in terms of doing mentoring, the live sessions, the self-paced aspect, and just so that people, when they do get to that point after the program completion at graduation, they feel adequately prepared to be able to just move into their own mindful circle space. And so this journey that has been set up has really been more of a holistic approach to that. And I think that we really want to ensure that it's a quality experience for people, that anybody who is in sort of the ICF pathway can use that towards that learning and that accreditation. And that was really important for BMC to be able to present it in this way.
Thanks for sharing that, Renee. Yeah, like I'm really also. I think the majority of the point on how to prepare for team coaching is such a tricky part, even group coaching, because this is where we as coaches become so skilled not to be prepared. We need to really think on our feet. We need to be ready to observe how are people how are people included? Are everybody's needs being met, and so on. So we are actually really talking about, even in the corporate setting and in different settings, we do mention these aspects, but it's really about each coach who is participating to define their own niche. Again, it's a little bit like individual coaching, right? Like you identify where would you want to bring these skills inside. Very good point. You know, can this be for parent circles? Absolutely. Could it be for couples? Absolutely, because we talk about the community being, it takes two people to create a community. This is one of the concepts, right? Like, so it's anything that is where the coach is not one of two, basically. So the coach would need to be the third person for this to be a mindful circle, right? For mindful circle to begin to happen. I think we also are bringing it in forms of like building a culture within organizations where mindful circles can become element of how people get together within an organization, and where they are not part, we will be talking about that when they are working in the same organization but they are not part of the same team, then they become a group. Right? So this is the difference, right? Like maybe in a couple they would be a team, but if we are having one partner and we are talking about couples, then that's a community, right? Like in a way, or if we have different couples, that would be a community. So we are really curious to hear where each coach kind of like comes together and really brings their perspectives. So my experience is that not many programs would focus on group coaching. This is my perception at the moment. Group coaching is more seen as after having team coaching skills, you may see a group as well. So we are really talking about group. What is group? Why with the group? The importance at this time in life, the importance of animating communities within different organizations, within different contexts, that actually this program is about a call for coaches to step up and have the role of animating communities, so that we can, in a way, maybe not to make it too big, but I am inspired with the vision of Thich Nhat Hanh saying that, and maybe even Buddha, that the next Buddha is not going to be an individual, it's going to be a community. That it is all about, and mindfulness practice is all about community after all. So we do talk about mindfulness practice as the link in that case, as again, like bringing everybody together. I would be curious to see if anybody would want to attend mindful circles and maybe use group coaching that does not have a mindfulness practice. I'm not quite sure if that would be applicable. So I would say that this program really is about bringing mindfulness as the string that ties the community together, if that makes sense, really. And now I'm not quite sure if, because I tied in a little bit to also to what Renee was talking about, but I forget if we answered both of your questions. Charlene, what was your second question?
Oh, well, my second question, I think you address, and what I'm understanding is also like the difference between team and group, and the different, perhaps even objectives of I'm hearing, animating a community,
Yes.
and also understanding that there's like a mindfulness thread, like the element of mindfulness of bringing that's kind of the thread that ties the circle community together. My second question was like what kind of settings we would be using these skills that we acquire. So I guess like perhaps following up, because you mentioned mindfulness being the single thread. How do we, again, like not quite sure how to phrase my question, but like for some people, for some communities, maybe they're not particular experience in mindfulness. So I'm curious but you kind of, as a coach, that mindfulness will be some form of mindfulness is helpful. For example, what we were talking about for self-compassion, right? Some people may not understand, but we wrap it or package it in a different way, like like talking about certain we can kind of package or present mindfulness not necessarily as mindfulness, right? Like would those type of skills be used? I mean, would we be able to kind of use these skills that are perhaps, I don't know, like outside of mindfulness, like hardcore mindfulness circle, but having some elements of it that will still be beneficial to people outside the mindful circle?
It's a great question. I'm curious of seeing that as well. To be honest, like I didn't think too much about anything beyond, but at the moment, what this program is going to be is using mindful principles of holding the circle together. How do we listen to each other? How do we give space to each other to be in a non-judgmental awareness? So in order to hold this circle, I would say it can be any other non-mindfulness practice related circle, as long as, of course, you can do whatever you want, but the invitation would be to say this circle, this would be covered in agreements. So we will spend a lot of time in agreements of how do you inform people that we are accepting what everyone is saying as part of individual journey, that there is non-judgmental presence, that we will have pauses, self-reflection time, silence is welcome, right? So we will be talking about these general big agreements on what can be part of the circle. But also we will invite coaches to say which parts do you want to keep in, would you keep in your circle, and which parts you wouldn't. So from that perspective, everything after that is left for your personal interpretation as a coach, and what kind of circles you would like to animate. Right?
And this is where
Anything
really
else?
knowing your client is just so essential.
Yeah.
And, letting them also define that aspect of mindfulness. Perhaps there's a practice that is specific to an individual within the circle that you may not have as a coach, but it can become part of those of that environment that you develop with the individuals as part of the circle.
Yeah. And then there are some elements of the practice that also in the setting as you were sharing. So we will have a role of a teacher coach or facilitator and a coach. So we do look at the overlaps where facilitation and coaching actually really hold the same ground, how they relate to the client, that both skills are looking at clients being creative, resourceful, and whole. Both would want to look at certain growth and so on. So maybe coaching a little bit more focused on the future, facilitation more about past, present, future, and so on. So we look at those aspects. We look at the storytelling as a kind of like binding also skill, where it's okay for the coach to talk, right? Like, unlike some maybe skills where we are saying that mainly asking questions when we are doing one-on-one, in group coaching, using some storytelling to bring the concept forward is okay. We do present parts. We can't necessarily be just sitting with a group and not doing that. With a team, sometimes it can be a little bit different. We can have much more role that is kind of like in the background, and really making sure that we are kind of like moving things together, because the team is cohesive. They have a lot of story and history within them already that is enough to move them, even if we are not doing much. But within the group that comes sporadically together, not always at the same time, we require a little bit more skills to keep to gel, to keep them together, right, during the session. So we will be talking about that, and equipping you also, and giving some elements. All of you know at the moment Joanna is holding her circles, which is specifically 45 minutes. It's about self-care, and maybe has less of a coaching topic, but it has elements of group coaching. It's missing that structure is missing a little bit of that final coaching inquiry. So we will bring that into the sessions as well. Look at it as a case study, and how can we turn it into a coaching session. So it has the mindfulness topic. We have a meditation, which is also a tool for us to hold the circle. And then how do we bring finally the inquiry, which is a really a skill on its own, right?
Great question, Charlene. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'm looking at the time. We're a little bit over our planned time. I know, Renee, you need to step out very soon. Anything else for the end that we can share to bring a little bit more clarity?
Yeah, and if those that are listening as well have any questions, of course, there's contact details in the presentation where you can reach out and let us know just what other
Yes.
questions that you might have to follow up.
Exactly. I would also bring, of course, into all of that, how could we use the somatic element into mindful circles? Could mindful circles have the element of dance, yoga, qigong? How can that be animated into the group, with the group coaching? How do we bring coaching skills to a yoga practice that we are meditating and practicing, and then having that inquiry? So all of that, I'm really curious to see what kind of coaches are going to come together, and how are we going to shape these new circles. There's no one right way that we are trying to create, but really we have BMC circles as the case study, but really open space for pretty much anything that can be present. And I have here a circle of cats. I've just got some new cat here. You probably hear. Hello. our cat brought another cat, and the dog is just looking at them. So fantastic. Having animal circles as well. So
Yeah.
on that note, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here. Wonderful to have the chance to have the first window opening and presenting the initiation of our brainchild, as we would say. So looking forward to hear from you, and we'll leave this to sit a little bit, and we will be sharing the video recording with others and see if there are any other thoughts. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Be well. Stay
Thank
safe.
you all.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoy.
Mm.